I'm going to dip my toe in the LiveScope electronics controversy. Share it with someone whose DMs you want to slide into. Major League Fishing has announced its 2023 roster for the Bass Pro Tour, and there are some notable names missing from this list. It's in their rule book. It's the way they do it. That's the way they do it. Bradley Hallman, besides being a YouTube star, he's just got one of those personalities. You know, he kind of reminds me of a Gerald Swindle type. The question is, does live fishing electronics make the coverage of bass fishing events unwatchable? Yes. Live electronics is good for the sport. I'm going to fight to keep live electronics in our tournaments. We'll get those life vest lifting clips, strap down those rods, and stow away those tackle bags because we are going fishing. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Bass Tour Anglers Podcast. I'm your host, Keith Neiswanger, and I hope this episode finds you with 5 for 25 in your... That's your boat official, weighed, certified, photographed, and released. No cheating here. Special thanks to our partners who make this podcast possible. Bassco Fishing is the official wardrobe sponsor of the Bass Tour Anglers Podcast. Today, I am wearing the Margarita Seafoam SPF 30 hooded sun shirt. Be sure to check out all the styles and all the colors by going to BasscoFishing.com. By now, you know we are the Western representatives for Duckett Fishing, pro-driven rods, reels, and baits. You know these guys, the strongest pro staff in all professional tour bass fishing. It is these same pros that lend their expertise to all the pro-driven products that Duckett produces. Duckett is building a presence in the West, and if you haven't seen it yet, you soon will. New independent dealerships are popping up all the time. Find out about the Duckett lineup of pro-driven rods, reels, and baits by going to their website, DuckettFishing.com. Well, it is officially the off season for the professional tours, and we're going to look at some roster moves, some tour announcements, and yep, I'm going to dip my toe in the LiveScope electronics controversy. But first, if you like the content we produce on this channel, please hit the subscribe button, like this video. They tell me it's supposed to be something important for us, so please subscribe and like this video. Share it with a friend. Share it with another podcast host. You know who I'm talking about. Or just share it with someone whose DMs you want to slide into. But share this video. As always, leave us a comment if you dare. Go ahead, hit the subscribe button now. I'll play some blues for you. Thank you. We are building our viewership, and your follow means a lot to us. Major League Fishing has announced its 2023 roster for the Bass Pro Tour, and there are some notable names missing from this list. It should be first mentioned that the Bass Pro Tour guarantees requalification for places 1 through 65 in their Angler of the Year race. Those in places 66 through 70 are evaluated for the remaining spots using last year's results or a career rolling average, whichever is more beneficial to them. That's something that people find controversial. It's in their rule book. It's the way they do it. That's the way they do it. This rule allows several anglers to remain on the tour, including Cliff Crochet, Brent Chapman, John Murray, James Watson, Tommy Biffle, and Russ Lane. Leaving the tour this coming season will be Paul Elias, Shaw Grigsby, Mike McClelland, Claibion Johns, and Jason Lambert. Two other anglers that are leaving to fish other tours are Bobby Lane, who is the Red Crest 2022 champion. He's going to attempt to requalify for the BASS Elite Series via the Opens. Good luck. That's going to be a tough deal. But if anyone can do it, Bobby Lane is certainly going to be up for that challenge. Ish Monroe is also leaving the Bass Pro Tour to explore other tournament opportunities for 2023. There's a lot of stuff going on the West Coast where Ish still lives. So we'll see where he ends up. Joining the Bass Pro Tour in 2023 from the pro circuit include Matt Becker. Really looking forward to seeing how Matt does on the Bass Pro Tour. I think he's going to fit in nicely. Josh Butler, Mitch Crane, John Hunter, Nick LeBrun, Spencer Sheffield. Spencer Sheffield is one of the best live electronic anglers out there, and I think he's going to have a big season on the Bass Pro Tour. And Jacob Wall rounds out the list of rookies for the Bass Pro Tour in 2023. So the 2023 Bass Pro Tour roster is set. Love it. Hate it. Got to deal with it. It is what it is, and I'm going to enjoy it, and I think other fans of professional fishing will enjoy it as well. Wardrobe for the Bass True Anglers podcast is brought to you by Basco Fishing. High-performance fishing apparel that can be customized to fit your needs. Do you need to showcase your brand? Does your business need apparel? Do you need a tournament jersey? Visit their website at www.bascofishing.com. In other BPT news, Major League Fishing has announced that it will move to a 5-fish limit. Now, this is certainly not new. It's been out for quite a while, but it is what they're doing. The Bass Pro Tour, Major League Fishing took a lot of polls, asked fans, asked other fishermen what they wanted, and this is what they decided to do. Personally, I really liked the Every Fish Counts format. I thought it was a unique tournament format. I know it's something that Gary Klein and others worked on tirelessly, and I really think it was the format that defined that tour. But the problem with that is that nobody else can duplicate it. In other words, it's very hard, well, it's impossible for the local bass club to fish in Every Fish Counts format. You need boat officials. You need the technology. And so trying to play the sport that our heroes play, really not possible with an Every Fish Counts format. Now, I don't know if that plays into it. I'm kind of thinking, why would anybody oppose this? Because I think it is so compelling and it has so many exciting moments throughout the whole week of the tournament. But it is what it is, and Major League Fishing's Bass Pro Tour will go to a 5-fish limit next year. I think it's going to be compelling as well. The conservation aspect is still there. The boat officials will weigh the fish and release the fish. So that's still going, which is good. Anyway, I'm looking forward to the season, whatever format they're going to fish. The organization has announced that they will keep the every fish format for some of their events. They do a lot more than just the tour events. The BASS Elite Series is adding some interesting names to their roster for 2023. First of all, it's very cool that they have expanded to a 100 angler field. I am very excited about that. I think 100, it seems like the number that the BASS Elite Series should have. Larry Legend, also known as Larry Nixon, will use his Bassmaster exemption next year to rejoin the BASS Elite Series. I think that adds some really neat tradition to that tour, and it adds a compelling personality, and it makes that tour even more interesting, I think. Nixon is the first millionaire in professional bass fishing history, and it will be a lot of fun to see how he does back on the Elite Series. The new open qualifiers to the Elite Series also add some compelling and interesting names to that roster. Keith Poche, this is a great story. Keith Poche is qualified for the Bass Pro Tour, and he's also qualified for the BASS Elite Series. He's going to try to do both. Now, we already know he was on our show just this last week, and he explained how he was going to do this. We know there's a conflict already, so that he will have to give up one event. He's decided that he will miss an Elite Series event and fish all the Bass Pro Tour events. Now, to get around that missed Elite Series event, he is going to fish some open events to hopefully qualify for the Bassmaster Classic. I hope he does it. I hope he's able to qualify for the Bassmaster Classic. I hope he's able to qualify for Red Crest. It would be great to see one person fish both of those events. Very interesting story there. Also coming to the Elites this next season, Coop Gallant, YouTube star, great angler, a lot of fun to watch. I really enjoy his YouTube videos. It'll be fun to watch him on this tour. I think he's going to do very well on the Elites. Cole Sands, David Gaston, John Sukup is going to be on the Elite Series next year, having also had a dramatic qualification for the Elite Series through the Opens, as did all of these anglers on this list. Alex Weatherall, Kyoya Fujita, Bryant Smith, Bradley Hallman, who has been trying to get back to the Elite Series for several seasons now. I really think the Elite Series is going to benefit from having Bradley Hallman on that tour. Bradley Hallman, besides being a YouTube star, he's just got one of those personalities. He kind of reminds me of a Gerald Swindle type. Not afraid to say what he thinks or how he feels. Really kind of going to do it his own way, and that's going to be a lot of fun to have that personality on that tour. Rounding out the 12 new Elite Series qualifiers, Kyle Norsetter, Logan Latuso, and Joyce Fuentes, also to the BASS Elite Series for 2023. The names added to this list makes the BASS Elite Series very interesting, and I'm really excited to watching it next year. Good for us. Next season is going to be compelling. 2 great-looking tours. Should be a lot of fun.
Change. It's inevitable. To improve, you must adapt. The sport is evolving. A paradigm shift is a fundamental change of basic concepts. Don't get left behind. Introducing Paradigm. Paradigm Reels by Duckett Fishing. Pro-driven.
There is more live scope drama in the world of professional bass fishing. What else is new? Wouldn't be a week without more live scope drama. The question is, does live fishing electronics make the coverage of bass fishing events unwatchable? Yes, Yes, it clearly takes us away from watching the topwater explosions and the big bass being yanked out of the pad fields that we enjoy watching. We enjoy it, there's no doubt about it. Yes, it is clearly boring watching anglers stare at their meters all day. Clearly boring. And yes, professional bass fishing needs to engage its audience with content people will watch. Now, from my standpoint, I think what the organizations need to do is make sure they schedule their events in waters that are maybe not as suited for offshore fishing, live electronic fishing. You know, we go up north, those smallmouth fisheries up there, they're all going to be live electronic events. They just are. Schedule some more river systems. Schedule some more backwoods bayou type events. And I think looking at both tour schedules this year, there'll be plenty of that. So again, I really, all this talk about live scope and live electronics, it's here to stay, and it should stay. Banning live electronics is not the answer. It really isn't. Live electronics is important for our sport. That's right, I said it. We are fishing for fish that have literally never seen lures before. That's pretty cool. Being able to connect with fish in their unseen underwater environment helps us understand what they're doing in ways we could have never imagined. You want to learn, right? And for live scope haters, it does take pressure off the banks. So if you want to go flip a bank or throw spinnerbaits along a bank, there are going to be fewer anglers on that bank doing that. So you're going to have some water to yourself. Live electronics is not the problem. It's another tool in your boat, just like every other tool you have in your boat. You know, when fiberglass boats with big outboard motors came along, we didn't ban those things. It was a tremendous advantage for those who could afford a big fiberglass boat with a big outboard motor. Tremendous advantage over people that were fishing out of tin boats. Tremendous. We didn't ban bass boats at that point, or fiberglass bass boats. We shouldn't ban live electronics. I maintain that live electronics makes you a better angler. I said that too. Because day after day, when you go out on the water and you find these fish with your live electronics and you catch them, and that's great, you got to go back out the next day and find them again. And you know fish move. So if they're not where they were, what do? Well, you got to go find them. And I think this causes us to learn more about what fish do and how they move on a day-by-day basis. Again, it's good for the sport. It's good for the learning. I don't know if you thought about this very much. I think about it all the time because I have bad days all the time when I go fishing. I could go out, fish all day, not get a single bite, come off the water, and literally I didn't learn anything. Oh, I might have learned where the fish weren't, but you think about it. You don't get any kind of reinforcement on your day on the water. What did you really learn? With live electronics, you still might not have caught any fish. I can not catch fish with live electronics, but you can see them. And if you see them, it gives you the confidence to fish for them. And it gives you the confidence to try new things. More evolution, more growth, more confidence. Again, I maintain that it's very possible to go out and not learn anything on a fishless day. But at least with the live electronics, you are giving yourself a chance to get some feedback and to see what's going on out there under the water that you would never have any way of knowing. I've been back in this bass fishing media for a couple of years. I had in a previous lifetime, I had a radio show between years 2001 and 2007. And coming back in the last 2 years, I find that the anglers I talk to know so much more about the bass, so much more. And this is not to take anything away from past generations, but I'm telling you, the anglers today know a lot more than we could have ever even dreamed about 20 years ago. And live electronics has a lot to do with that. A lot to do with that. Check out what we had Josh Bertrand on the show a couple weeks ago. Check out what he had to say about LiveScope.
there's no rust at all, right? Like I'm as sharp as I'll ever be at it because I've been doing it for the last 2 months, looking at these smallmouth. And, I could tell the difference between a carp and a catfish and a bass. And that was a really
Wow.
big deal. And I think, maybe if a guy hasn't put quite as much time in, it might be hard to tell the difference between certain types of fish. And if you spend a lot of time pitching at carp and catfish, you're have less time to put it in front of a bass. Right. So, live scope was a big factor. There were some fish that I caught that I saw either on 2D or maybe just cast up to a good piece of structure.
Yeah.
But I would say more fish than not, I did see before catching for sure.
Hey, maybe you could drop a nugget on us right here. I mean, when you're looking at live scope and you're talking about being able to tell the difference between a bass and a carp and a catfish, a tip or two about that. What's the difference?
Sure. I mean, it's a good question. And a lot of it comes to just getting the trained eye and practicing, right? But there are some key giveaways. And what's funny is every lake, it's going to be different because you have different types of, you don't want to call them a rough fish, but I just use that term for this example, bass compared to another species of fish, whether it's a catfish, a carp, a walleye, a drum.
Yeah.
Yep. The bass are going to be always a little bit more of a solid mark because they're really dense fish, especially smallmouth. The smallmouth are so muscly and meaty that when you see one on your live sonar, I use live scope, it's going to be a better echo. You're going to have a more solid white dot.
Like a bright star.
Yes. That's a great way to describe it. It sounds like you're pretty familiar with it too, but yeah, it looks like
I've seen a few, but I cannot sit here and tell you I could tell the difference, but when you're talking the way you're talking, it's making sense. And I know that what I've seen are really bright stars on that scope, and that makes sense.
It's very apparent. It's brighter. It's a harder return. Whereas the other fish are going to leave a duller return.
I've seen that too.
The way that they position for sure. Right. Like, and size, right. I mean, hey, if it's a 20-pound carp, it's going to look a lot bigger than a 3-pound smallmouth, obviously. Right. Yeah. But, the way they position, this is something that you have to learn every time, every new body of water at every time. Right. Because 1 week, the smallmouth might be packed up. The next week, they might be roaming by themselves. And same with the carp and catfish. One thing that was really interesting at Mojave this week was the catfish were really schooled up. So like you would see a school of these catfish and think the first couple of times, it's like, look at that school. Oh my God, you pitch in catfish. And you learn, you do that a couple of times. And then ultimately you start to see that school that and you don't pitch into them. Now, and if you're not sure, you pitch. If you're not sure, you throw at them, right? Yeah. But I think, and that was probably a big advantage for a couple of the other guys. Like I know Spencer is one of the best, forward-facing sonar fishermen on the planet, and I guarantee he wasn't wasting time pitching at fish that weren't bass.
It's fascinating stuff. And we also had Tristan McCormick. Check out what he had to say about live electronics.
Because they're seeing so many baits and these fish are so smart, and the guys are fishing are so smart because all electronics, everybody has the best of the best. So, sometimes you got to finesse them.
Yeah. I was going to ask you what role electronics played in your fishing this week, but it sounds like at least on that first fish, it did.
Yeah. Well, my neck's hurting. I don't think I ever took my eyes off my units. The technology in today's world, a lot of people talk bad about it. A lot of people don't have it probably that talk bad about it. But I'm young. I grew up in a generation of the smart electronics with fishing, and
absolutely, absolutely. It's a ridiculous comment that there's something wrong with that. I mean,
yeah. And here's
I had
the
to
thing.
learn how to do technology to make podcasts, and I'm an old guy, so come on.
Yeah, I don't even know how to do half the stuff. But like I'm saying, I grew up in the generation of electronics.
Right.
And for me, without them, I feel naked. Like if I'm not looking at my units, whether it's side scan, my 2D, whatever it is, I feel so behind, so out of whack. Like I have, you know what I mean? Like I just feel naked. I feel like
Absolutely.
I have no chance.
Tristan doesn't need to apologize for being good. Live electronics is good for the sport. It creates jobs in the industry. It provides sponsor support for organizations and for professional anglers. It's just plain good. In fact, I'm going to be the new live electronics proponent. I'm going to fight to keep live electronics in our tournaments. I'm going to do battle with those who want to see live electronics taken away from the sport of bass fishing. I'm going to be the live electronics advocate. Someone once said, there's no such thing as staying the same. You're either getting better or you're getting worse. I totally believe this is the case. If you're getting beat by younger anglers or any anglers out there who are using live electronics to beat you, well, you're getting worse. If you want to continue to improve, you need to take the steps. You need to improve. You need to do these things. You're either getting better or you're getting worse. There's no staying the same. I would really enjoy hearing what you have to say about this. I think I'm right, but prove me wrong. Well, that's going to do it for this episode of the Bass Tour Anglers Podcast. As always, I appreciate you listening to what we have to say on this show. Please remember to hit the subscribe button. Hit the subscribe button. Like this video. Until next time, keep both hands on the wheels. Keep those live feathers zipped and clipped. Stay safe, and we will talk to you again very soon.